Good morning to you all present over here. Last class we discussed bryophyta. Inside that we seen some characteristic feature of bryophyta. Then we see male sex organ. We see female sex organ. So male sex organ known as what? Antheridium. And female sex organ known as what? Archegonium. Okay. Now we have to come on further that this Bryophyta contains sexually two type of life cycle. One is having gametophytic and one is having sporophytic. So that's showing alternation of generation. But here gametophytic stage is dominant on which sporophytic means diploid stage completely dependent as parasitic nature. Parasitic means they take their food, nourishment, growth from gametophytic stage. Okay, so now we will see that this antheridium, that is male, and this archegonium, female sex organ, they need what? External water layer. For what? For swimming of anthrazoids. Okay, that antheridium producing what? Anthrazoids. For swimming of anthrazoids to the archegonia, they need water, external layer of water. Okay, so that fertilization takes place. So we have to see, come on that. An external layer of water is essential for swimming of anthrazoids that produced from antheridium towards archegony. For what purpose? For fertilization. Okay, so here what it is needed? Water layer. Okay, external water they are needed. Now this fertilization, after this fertilization, what produces? Zygote. But this zygote produced inside archegonium. Okay, so this fertilization produces zygote. Now this zygote produced under what? Archegonia. So which is formed inside archegonia. This you have to remember, that zygote formed inside which structure? So that structure is known as archegonia. Now here what happens? This immediately don't undergo meiosis. Okay, so zygote don't undergo reduction division, that is what? Meiosis. Immediately. Now what happens? First it undergo mitosis and forms embryo. Okay, what I told, that it does not undergo meiosis immediately. First it undergo mitosis division and forming what? Embryo. Since it forming embryo, and this embryo further develop into diploid sporophyte. So this further develops into diploid sporophyte. Since first it develops what? Embryo. That's why it is known as a first embryophyte. So why, understood now? So bryophytes are known as first embryophytes. Very, very important. That which one of the following known as a first embryophyte? So which is known as, that is bryophyte. So why this is knowing? Because the zygote forming immediately not undergo meiosis. First they undergo mitosis and forming what? Embryo, and that's why bryophytes are known as first embryophytes. Okay, now come on next. Now next, we have to see this sporophyte. What I told, it is not free living. This is attached to photosynthetic gametophyte. So, the sporophyte formed here is not free living and acts as parasite that depends on gametophyte for their food, nutrition, etc. And that's why sporophyte is known as what? Parasite over gametophyte. In which category? It is in bryophytes. Okay. Now, the sporophyte in bryophytes, they contain three parts. What are the parts are there? That it is important. The sporophyte of bryophytes contains three distinct part, okay, named as capsule. What is that? Named as capsule. And next is seta. So capsule, seta, and foot. Now this foot helps in attachment to substratum. So attaches with substratum. Now this seta provides strength, okay, just like stem, and this capsule acts as a reproductive unit. Okay, so this capsule contains what? Reproductive units are there. Okay, now here what happened? Inside the capsule, spore mother cells found that undergo meiosis to form haploid spores, and that's why here sporic meiosis are found. So what I told, in the capsule. Spore mother cells are found that undergo meiosis to form sporic meiosis to form what? Haploid gametophyte, which are photosynthetic in nature. Photosynthetic in nature, and this gametophyte, while doing photosynthesis, so food making, that sporophyte takes that one. And here which type of meiosis occurs? So that meiosis is known as sporic meiosis. Okay, now generally bryophytes producing only one type of spore, and that's why this belongs to homosporic or homosporous. So come on that. Bryophytes are homosporous in nature. That means it produces only one type of spores, and that's why it is known as what? Homosporous. So bryophytes are what? Homosporous. Now these spores get disseminated by wind, dispersed by wind. The spores get disseminated okay, so the spores get disseminated by wind. So from here what happens? Pollination type of process started. So disseminated by wind. Now here what happens? As the air sac the capsule, because capsule containing spore mother cell, so as the air sac the capsule, the spore come out. Okay, and what happened? Dispersed spores having the ability to germinate immediately after falling on suitable substratum. So what I told, as the air sacs the capsule, what happened? The spores come out from spore mother cell, and when fall down on suitable substratum, it grows immediately and form new organisms. Okay, so what happens? When air sacs the capsule, the spores comes out from the spore mother cell, and when fall down on suitable substratum, it grows immediately and forming what? that forming new what organisms. Now, mostly what happens if immediately they are forming, so that occurs in liverworts, or if they form a filamentous stage, that is juvenile stage, known as a protonoma, as in mosses. So what happens? Immediately form, and one is forming protonema stage. So protonema stage is what? Juvenile stage, that happens in, for example, mosses, and immediately they are forming. So if immediately they are forming, that occurs in where? Liverworts. So here, for example, liverworts. But this protonema stage is the pre-reproductive stage. That's why it is known as juvenile stage. So here one question came: in mosses, which is the reproductive stage occurs? So what happens first? Here first forming protonema stage, and that it moves to reproductive stage or forming new bryophytic organism. Okay. Now, mostly this bryophytes reproduces vegetatively by fragmentation, as we seen in algae. Okay, so here what happens? Bryophytes reproduced vegetatively by which method? By fragmentation. And what making they? Gamete and budding. Okay, now this gamete and budding is what? Gamete is the structure where spores are formed inside the gamma cup, and budding is what? This gamete, when what happens? They combine together, they collectively known as, we can say, birds, and that it goes into spores and gametophytic stage is being formed. We will see in the detail later. Okay, so it is what? Bryophyte reproduced what? Vegetatively by fragmentation, by gumming, by budding stages. Okay, now these bryophytes divided into two groups. One is what we have seen, liverworts, and one is mosses. So we will see one by one. Bryophytes mainly divides into two groups. What are those? One is having liverworts and another is having mosses. Okay, so one is having liverworts and one is having mosses. Now this liverworts comes under class Hepaticopsida. So one by one we will see liverworts. This belongs to class Hepaticopsida. Okay, so liverworts comes under where? In which class? That belongs to Hepaticopsida. Okay, now these liverworts mostly grow in damp area. Okay, moist area, shaded area, or bark of trees in deep. What I told? These are found in damp area, moist area, bark of trees in deep. Okay, they are found in where? Damp area, moist area, bark of trees in deep. And where? In the woods. Mostly it is seen in the bark of trees in deep in the wood. Which one? Liverworts. Now, the plant body of liverwort is mostly thalloid in structure. Just for example, in Mertensia. So, the plant body of liverworts is mostly thalloid in structure. For example, Mertensia. Okay, for example, what? Mertensia. Okay, now here the leafy members known as porella. What I told? The leafy members known as porella. This term you have to remember. Okay, leafy members of liverworts, that is known as what? Porella. Okay, now here if we are saying that asexual reproduction, so asexual reproduction also occurs by means of formation of specialized structure gamete. Asexual reproduction in liverworts takes place by means of fragmentation or by specialized structure known as gamete. Okay, so asexual reproduction in liverworts takes place by what? Gamete. Okay, now gamete is what? Gamete are green multicellular asexual birds which develop in small receptacles, gamma cups. What I told? Gamete are asexual birds which are green leafy. Okay, it is what? Gamete are asexual birds which are green leafy and formed on receptacles. Formed on receptacles known as gamma cups. So gamete, that is asexual birds. Okay, they are forming under where? They are forming under gamma cups. Okay, now this gamete when mature become detached from the parent body and form what? New individual. So when gamete become mature, it detached from parent body and form an new individual of bryophytes. Okay, so this gamete when become mature, it happens what? Detached from the parent body and forming what? A new individual of bryophytes. Okay, now if a sexual reproduction takes place, so male is known as antheridia and female is known as archegonia. So during sexual reproduction, male sex organ is antheridia and female sex organ is known as archegonia. Okay, now this antheridia and archegonia, if present on same plant, so that example is rixia. What I told? Antheridia and archegonia are present on same plant, and that example is rixia. If antheridia and archegonia are present on different, that example is mercansia. Now these two examples you have to remember. Different, mercansia. If they are present on same plant, that is example what? Rixia. Okay. Now the male sex organ are present on one structure known as anthridiophore and female sex organ also present on a structure known as archegoniophore. What I told? The male sex organ are present on anthridiophore and female sex organ are present on archegoniophore. These two terms you have to remember. Where that present? Male present on anthridiophore and female sex organ present on archegoniophore. Okay. Now here what I told, this fusion of gametes forming what? Zygote, which develops into embryo. So fusion of gametes forms zygote which further develops into embryo, and that's why we told what bryophytes are first embryophytes. Okay, now then what happened, this embryo further develops into sporophyte. Okay, so this sporophyte will what, parasitic nature, that depends on what, gametophyte. Okay, so the sporophyte of liverworts is completely parasitic in nature, but in mosses partial parasitic. This also you have to remember. The sporophyte of liverworts is completely parasitic on gametophyte. Complete parasitic nature. Okay, this you have to remember, that complete parasitic nature showing that is liverwort. If partial is there, so that is mosses. Okay, now already we also seen that the sporophyte contain capsule also here has what, they are having anthrazoids. Okay, that is having helpful in external water layer and moving towards archegonia. Okay, now next we have to see what another group, that is bryopsida. But before going into that, we have to see one diagram, bryophyta, that is liverwort mercansia, how they looks like. Many time I have seen their diagram, they are asking, but differentiation is only one. What is that? One contain anthridiophore and one contain archegoniophore. So if anthridiophore and archegoniophore is there, means they are telling about mercansia. We have to see that. Simple structure, just we have to make that one. Many type of structures are there, simply they are looking. Now one is what, one is having male mercansia and one is having female mercansia. Where the difference we will see now. Okay, so one is a male mercansia, one is female mercansia. Here rhizoids are formed. This is rhizoid. Here also this is rhizoid. Okay, This type of branching they are having here. Gamma cups are forming. So these are what? These are gamma cups. Here also these are gamma cups. Okay. Now you have to remember that if male Mertensia they are asking, so they has to contain N3DO4. So here